We are live on camera. Okay. It's 3:30. I'm going to give one more minute. If you don't mind, while we're waiting for the last few people to join us, just to drop in the chat where you're joining us from. And if you have an exciting update that you are excited about, an AI update, drop that in the chat as well. What's the thing that, even if it's not very, very new, what's the most recent thing in AI that excites you the most? Give one more minute. At 3:31, we're going to get started in earnest. Thank you, Jennifer. Good afternoon. We are dropping the chat in the, I'm sorry, got that backwards. We're dropping the link in the chat. And it is advisable to open that because there are some things to click in the presentation today, some resources for some hands-on activity. And while we're doing that, if you will drop in the chat your name, where you're joining from, and what is the most exciting thing in AI that you know of recently? Most, even if it's not very, very new, the most recent thing that really excited you that has to do with AI. And I'm going to open up the chat and kind of look through those while people are joining and see what we have. I see some folks are typing, but I don't see anything in there yet. Okay, Beth from Wake County, Google Gemini allows you to export a Google Doc. Yes, that is so helpful, so handy. Heidi from Wayne County. Oh, Nana Banana. We're going to look at that today, Heidi. Very, very exciting stuff there. And Lindsay from Union County, Gemini Storybook. We're also going to look at that today. Also, one of my favorite new things. Gemini has been bringing it lately, I will have to say. Lots of good stuff coming from the Google camp recently. Okay, well, it is actually 3:32. So my colleague Jennifer is here, and she will hopefully keep admitting people and let me know if I'm missing anything in the chat. But we're going to go ahead and get started. As you can see, I should be already sharing my screen. If at any time you don't see it, somebody please let me know. But the QR code is there. The short link is there as well. And I have a little brief introduction of myself there. If you don't know me, my name is Vera Cubero, and I'm the Emerging Technologies Consultant for the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, and I have some contact information there. Very active on LinkedIn, if that's something that you do. It's a great place to be if you're interested in AI. And I also have my X handle and my email there. And notice also that the image that you see there was edited by Nana Banana, or Gemini's 2.5 flash image generator. We'll look at that a little later. That is really me, but I don't really own those clothing, that outfit. And so we'll talk about that a little later on in the presentation. Don't want to do that too early or I'll lose you all. And so we're going to save the best for last. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get started then. There is a companion doc, and it is on slide 2, and it is just something you click and open, and it will be helpful to have in yet another tab. So there are lots of prompts and things to click on it, and then if you don't get to try them all today, that'll give you a reference to go back to as we try out some of these things. I wish we had longer than an hour. We won't have time to try a lot, but we'll try some of them. And just having them to copy and paste from makes it much easier to do in a setting like this. And so if you don't mind opening that doc, and I'm hoping it will open for me. Is it opening for everyone else? Jenna, are you, everybody else able to open it? You can't click and open it? Well, what is up with that? I will have to drop that in the chat then. So I'm going to find that, and I'll have to see what's wrong with my thing, but it won't open for me either. So it should. Let me go into my Google Docs. I'll just find it and I'll drop the link in the chat instead. We'll do it that way this time. And I will correct that on the slide deck when we're not in this meeting anymore. And so this is the Google Doc link, and it has the prompts and everything on it. It also has the link to this presentation that I'm showing you now, and it has a link to a Padlet. If you are inclined to share anything we do today, I want to give you that opportunity. I don't try to force it. but I do want to give you the opportunity if you create an image or an app or something that you want to share. This is a wide open empty Padlet just for this session. And if you're not familiar with Padlet, it's very easy. You just go to the lower right-hand corner and click it, and then you can either upload a file, use a link, and so forth to add to the Padlet. And so I do encourage you to share if you feel like it, and I'll try to remember to go back in and look at it every once in a while and show what you've shared. Okay, so next thing is the Padlet, which I just went over. Had that on 2 slides, so we can skip that for now. Hopefully that one will click. Yeah, yeah, that one actually works in line, but it's in the it's in the Google Docs. So if you get the document, you're good. I'm going to start today with some North Carolina specific updates because we are in North Carolina. And if you have not heard, our Superintendent Mo Green and the State Board of Education just released a joint strategic plan, the first one in quite a while that was joint between the Board of Education and the superintendent. And it's really well thought out and thorough. And so it is arranged into these 8 pillars that you see here. I won't go into those in depth, but I do encourage you to explore our new strategic plan, and it is hyperlinked in the title. But one part that excites me the most, being the AI nerd that I am and the PBL nerd that I am, is this little part of it that's in Pillar 1, F4A5. There's an addition to it that says that it's in the part about reimagining the student experience, but it's about establishing scalable approaches to embed artificial intelligence safely, responsibly, and ethically, and to ensure collaborative problem solving is included in the learning experience. And I'm very heavily invested in PBL, and I really feel like that is the way of the future with AI. And so I'm excited to see that made it to the strategic plan, and I wanted to share that with you. Another thing that just happened yesterday, if you were not following the news yesterday, our governor, North Carolina, Governor Stein, has just issued an executive order on AI, Executive Order 24. And this is a brief summary of it. But basically, the most important components of it is it creates a North Carolina AI Leadership Council, which is co-chaired by Secretaries of Information, Technology, and Commerce. And I'm actually going to be serving on that with a lot of other people from across the state to kind of help guide North Carolina's AI implementation. So I'll be like a K-12 voice on that council. And they're also establishing an AI accelerator, which will be a place that people inside our agency, it's not really important for you guys, but people inside the agency can try things out. And then a cabinet that will have AI council at each of our agencies. And so I do encourage you to look at the executive order. It's linked on the bottom of the page if that is of interest to you. This one is of particular interest to me and to our team, the Office of Digital Teaching and Learning, because we are offering the North Carolina AI Solvathon. And if you haven't seen that, I wanted to take a moment to share this out. It is an innovative statewide problem-solving challenge for our students in grades 6 to 12. And this document that is on the page here contains all of the information that is currently available about the Solvathon. Whoops. And I also just wanted to point out that there's also a presidential AI challenge that was recently announced, and it is linked at the bottom of the page. Very similar to ours intentionally. We've aligned our dates and our requirements and our scoring guides with it so that if North Carolina teams want to also submit to the presidential AI challenge, that they have kind of a clear pathway to do that. But I do want to make sure everybody understands that we are not affiliated with the presidential AI challenge. So a submission to North Carolina does not count as a submission to the presidential challenge. Winning North Carolina's challenge does not count as winning or guarantee acceptance into the presidential challenge. But I do encourage you to check out both of them. If you're interested in coaching on this document, there is a link there for a webinar. We actually had one yesterday, so that one's gone. But next Monday, we're having another webinar to, if you're a district leader or you're interested in coaching or anything like that, there's a link there that you can register for that webinar from 3 to 4 o'clock. And then we're going to get to outside of North Carolina. And I just wanted to start with just some trend updates. And I've talked a lot about the year that 2025 is considered to be the year of agentic AI. And we are seeing a lot of things happen in a lot of companies with agents. But what's been happening recently is that increasingly all of the major large language models have also started toying around with agentic browsers. And so instead of just having Google, where you have to type things in and you get your answers, they're actually embedding AI in the browser itself. And so this is really changing the game, so to speak, for education and for everybody, as a matter of fact, because generative AI really is ubiquitous. You hear that a lot, you hear that word a lot, but it is everywhere. So it has for a long time been ineffective to try to block or ban these tools. But if you think about in particular, when every internet browser that someone has in a few months will most likely be agentic. So it will not only have AI in it, but it will have AI that can actually act on your behalf and do things for you. And so it can shop for you, it can fill out forms for you, it can search the web for you. And this is something that is already happening. It's not some distant far future. It also has a lot of potential. It can help you to do a lot of things faster. So imagine, I think about the time consuming things that I do, like filling in our forms and things that we have to do. If I had an agentic browser that could do that for me, that could schedule things for me. So it could reduce a lot of that busy work. But I do want to caution people about using these. I've been very cautious and very careful myself, because when you give an agent, whether it's ChatGPT agent or any other agent, access to your device, it's actually going into your accounts and things. It will stop and ask you to sign in, but that does give the potential for abuse. And so since it is new technology, I generally just recommend people don't explore that too much yet. It's just important to know that it's on the horizon. But if you do, you have to be very careful, because it is a potential for prompt injection, something that bad actors can do to kind of steal your data, steal your privacy. And so we want to be very careful about that. But on that front, these are the four main frontier models, which I mostly deal with frontier models, not the little, all of the other little tools that have come along. But all of these either already have or are exploring agentic browsers. And so you might have heard of Perplexity Common. It's been out for a while. It is a fully agentic browser that can really go out and navigate the web for you and do things for you. And it's been out for a little while. They just made some updates in August, but if you're interested, there's a link there so you can explore it a little more. And then with Google, they have something called AI mode, which is an agentic AI browser. You have to turn it on, and I'm not sure if it's available for everybody. It's available on my DPI account, which typically means it's rolled out and it's pretty readily accessible. We'll look at that in a minute. But Anthropic, Claude, has something called Claude for Chrome, which now is just in pilot. It's not something you can go and try out. They're right now just 1,000 testers within their most expensive plan, their max plan, are testing it. But it will be very similar, where it can draft responses for you, fill out forms, navigate the web. And then ChatGPT doesn't have this publicly available in browser form, but they did incorporate search into their platform several months ago. And so you can search the web within ChatGPT, but there's also been a leak recently that they are toying around with a Chromium-based agentic browser as well. And so pretty soon, most of the tools are going to have this agentic browser experience. And I have a couple of slides specifically about this. ChatGPT agent, this is not something I'm going to spend time demoing, because it's only available for paid tiers. And I don't typically demo things that are only for paid tiers. But again, I still think it's important that people are aware of it. Because like those browsers, it can go and actually do things for you. And there's a little video here of me testing it out, which I just zipped right through. But you can kind of see it playing there. So when you turn on the agent, and you give it a task, it creates this little window within your chat, and you can see it actually going and searching the web for you and following your commands, whatever you ask it to do. And if it comes across a paywall, if it comes across sign in, it will stop and it will ask you to sign in. So it kind of hands control over. And then when you're finished doing that, you hand control back over to it and you can tell it what you've done. But it actually will complete tasks for you. I found it to be not necessarily that time saving now because they're still new. This is still new technology, but in the future, I can see this being very, very helpful and very useful. But again, you have those concerns that I just mentioned about turning over your credentials to an AI tool. And we really caution people about that, to be really thoughtful and careful about doing that and making sure that you're aligning with whatever your district policies are, which most of them are going to say no. So maybe explore it some on your own. You'll see some people on the internet that are posting videos of them shopping on there and actually giving access to their credit card to purchase things. I personally would not recommend doing that yet, if ever. Certainly not at this juncture. I wouldn't be putting my credit card on there, but you do see that a lot of people are using it in that way, having it shop for concert tickets and things like that. Same with those agentic browsers like Comet and those others that I just talked about. And so I think it's good just to get a glimpse of where we're going, where we're headed. The AI search, as I mentioned in Google search, this is something typically you can use. All you have to do to use it, if it's available for you. Now, depending on your district settings, it may not be. But if you go to your just plain Google page and you see this AI mode in the corner, then you have access to it. You may have to go to labs.google.com first and enable it if you're allowed to do that. But I do have it enabled. And when I click that, you can see my browser looks very different. And so I can say, find concerts within 2 hours of Brevard, North Carolina, which is where I am, over the next 2 weekends. And I can have it going out and searching the web for me. And so instead of me doing it, it will go out and find them for me. And again, I could go farther and actually ask it to book tickets for me, but I would not do that. I would not recommend anyone else do that. Okay. But it is just a little bit different experience. And so if I want to go into one of these, I can go into it and you can just see it's like a browser, but on steroids, a browser with AI. Okay. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time with that, but it is interesting to kind of explore and play around with if you have access to it. If not, you may have to go down here to the bottom. I've got a link to labs.google.com, and you can turn on a lot of the cool Google experiments there if they're not blocked on your domain. So you can do it on your personal domain if not. And so this is just more about the AI mode, and it gives you an idea of how you might could use it as an educator. And this one, I've just asked it a prompt, compare project-based versus inquiry-based learning for middle school. And you can see on my computer there, I've kind of recorded it as I was going through that search. And so it goes in and it makes that comparison for me. So instead of just getting a dumpster fire of links, I'm actually getting content. I will tell you that people who own websites on the internet and are making money by people visiting their websites are not very happy about this, because what's happening in AI search mode and things like that is sometimes people don't ever go to the website because they're getting everything they need right in the browser experience. And so there's a lot of things to navigate about that. And they're exploring some ways to make sure they don't curb the traffic too much and hurt the businesses that are on the internet. But just interesting to be aware of. Now, most of you have probably heard that ChatGPT had a new launch recently called GPT-5. And so we'll talk briefly about that. It launched August 7th and rolled out to everybody within a week or so. And it is really a very, very advanced model. Somebody said, a recent article said, we're moving toward the age of the question, not the click. And that's a great way to put it. And so instead of just clicking on things, knowing how to ask the right question is really important. So that's a good point. Thank you for sharing that, Judy. But back to the ChatGPT, they did have a launch, and the model is very, very powerful, but there was this outpouring of criticism on all of the social media places where people are very brave behind their keyboards about the model, complaining about it. And if you dig down into that, what the reason for the complaints was a bit disturbing, because most of the people who were complaining about the model were saying things like they missed their Chat GPT-4. They were talking about the personality of the previous model. And what that started pointing to is that people are becoming unnaturally attached, unfortunately, these, because ChatGPT 4.0 seemed more warm and friendly and engaging, and ChatGPT 5, they intentionally tried to reduce some of that sycophancy also, that just tells you anything you want to hear, because that's an issue. But for some people, that really upset them, that they lost access to that 4.0 model. And so the idea was, when ChatGPT 5 came out, that you wouldn't have a model selector anymore. It would just automatically determine which model you used based on that, and ChatGPT 4.0 was going to go away. But within a week, ChatGPT had added the 4.0 model back. There's something in your settings, if you like 4.0 better, that you can go in and enable the older models, because of the outpouring of criticism from all the corners of the web. So it was very interesting. But this is a super powerful model. It does a lot of things much better. It has a much longer context window. It has better direction following. It's more accurate. It's less sycophantic. A lot of those things, less hallucinations. So lots of things are better with this model. And one thing that, just as an example, is that to demonstrate this is a study that came out about a month ago and called Your Brain on ChatGPT. You may have heard about it if you follow AI news, but it is over 200 pages long. And so, to demonstrate how powerful this model is, if you click this image, it should let you download it. And then if you put it into Chat GPT, if you like to work along with me while I'm doing it, and then put this prompt in there. So what I'm asking is, from this big 200-page model, to create me a one-pager with 5 recommendations. And under each bullet, include a short quote with the exact page number, and produce a table that maps our 7 Portrait of the Graduate durable skills to the 2 AI-supported learning activities. And so you can tell that's a complex prompt with multiple different tasks. That's the kind of thing that a year ago the models really couldn't handle. And I was telling people to take little bite-sized pieces and take baby steps and do one piece of that at a time, and then build onto it. Now you can throw something like that at these models, and that it will actually do it well. And so I'm going to go here and I'm going to take that prompt, and and here's the link to that study if you want to try it with me. There's a link there that you can download it. I already have it downloaded, but I'm going to copy that prompt. I'm going to go to ChatGPT. I'm going to paste it in, and then I'm going to add that file from my desktop cognitive debt. And again, it's like 205 pages, something like that. And so it does take a minute to load. You can see it loading as I add it. And then I'm going to run this prompt, but I'm going to add a couple of other things to it. I'm going to say add colorful flat icons. If I had thought, I would have also copied I will do it while I'm waiting, for visual effect. And I'm also I keep our DPI brand stuff handy, so I can also add that to my prompt, so it'll use our brand colors. And so I'm going to add that to it. So, okay, so I've done all of that and it's still loading. So I'm going to give it just a minute. So I've given it my hex codes that we use in DPI for all of our content. I've asked it to add some flat icons. I've asked it to use a sans serif font such as Roboto, and it is still loading. So as soon as it finishes loading, I'm going to run that prompt and we'll see what it does. Thank you, Jen. I forgot to point that out on the document. It does have tabs. It's tabbed document, which I love. And so on the left-hand side, if you open that up, you can actually navigate with these tabs. And so that prompt is right here under ChatGPT-5 demo prompts. Okay. I'm not sure why you're not able to click links. I apologize for that. I've done that multiple times and it's always worked, but somehow something changed this time. So we'll try to just get those links into the chat. Is there a link that I've forgotten to put in the chat? The link to that study, it's in that doc also. If you want the link to the study, it is linked right here. It's hyperlinked in this document as well. And so we may have to drop links for anything else. Canva maybe, I'm not sure. It seems to be stuck on the upload. I was hoping to demonstrate this in real time. I'm going to have to try my upload again, though. Let me try that again. I did it earlier, and I may have to show you the one I did earlier if it won't load faster. It normally takes a few seconds, but it doesn't take that long. So if it stops, I'll just pull up my previous one, but I think it's going to go. Like watching water boil or moss grow, but it's going. Ah, nope, there it goes. Don't stop now. Okay. Well, I'm going to copy this. Earlier, I didn't add that to it. I'm just going to go to the one I tried earlier today, and it thought for 1 minute and 49 seconds. It did this much quicker then, but I didn't think to have my branding and my colors on there. But you can see it kind of broke down that whole big thing, and it tells what it does. Oh, that's the executive brief. That's a different one. Um, this one. This is the one that I did earlier. Okay, so this is the prompt, and these are the recommendations. You can see I've uploaded the cognitive debt there. That's the prompt I gave it, and then it gives me this one-page brief. It breaks down that study, which basically says what most of us kind of assumed already, is that if you let ChatGPT do everything for you, you won't remember it because you didn't do it. So it recommends that you always use your brain first and then use ChatGPT as an add-on. It could actually be beneficial, or any AI tool, but just giving kids a tool to begin with without them engaging their cognitive abilities. This particular study, which was very limited, only like 54 people in college, but it showed in writing that they didn't remember what they wrote if they wrote it with ChatGPT, which wasn't really earth-shattering to me, but for some people apparently it was pretty earth-shattering. It was very popular for a while. And so I've gone back and said, okay, now I want you to add colorful flat icons. Use the following colors to maintain brand consistency. And as you'll see, I have mindset on ChatGPT 5 thinking, which is going to be your slower model. But while it's doing that, I'm just going to look at this drop down and see how it's changed, because now you just have ChatGPT 5. You have auto, which means it's going to decide for you which model to use based on your prompt. You have instant, which is the fastest. It's going to give you the quickest answers, but possibly not the most in-depth thinking. And then pro. And then now I have my legacy models turned on, so I can access 4.0 as well. And the way you turn them on is to go down here to your settings. And if you go into settings and customize it, there's a little thing right here. You can turn it on to show the additional models. And mine is just being really slow right now, so I'm not going to belabor that anymore. Um, but hopefully you will get to try it. It went much faster when I did it earlier today, but that's one way you can use it, is to really dig into very long, complex articles and things. But another trend update that I'd like to point out, and we've talked about vibe coding before, but pretty much all of the frontier models now are not just for searching, not just for engaging, not just for drafting and planning, but you can actually create in them. And so you can create apps and websites and interactive learning materials without having to code, without having to know coding. And so all of them pretty much are doing that. So that allows you to be architect of your own bespoke learning materials, making them exactly what you want them. Can really lower the barriers for non-coders, for like me. Something I just never was able to master. I've dabbled in it a lot, but I've never mastered it. So now I can code things. Accelerates your workflow. Underlying models improve, so does the functionality of the vibe coding. So something that I vibe coded 2 months ago in ChatGPT would be much better if I did it today, now that ChatGPT 5 came out. Same thing with Gemini with a 2.5. It's gotten much better. And Anthropic's Claude has had it for a while. Microsoft has it. Canva actually has a vibe coding platform as well. And so what I've got here are two different examples, which I'm hoping to open and show. It looks like this one does let you actually click it and open it. So what I've done is I've given the same prompt to ChatGPT 5 and to Gemini 2.5 Pro. And so I will just open each one of them, but this is my prompt. Um, Create a single file HTML interactive that teaches projectile motion for grade 9 math students. Includes sliders for angle and velocity, an annotated graph, and a short try it section with 3 inquiry prompts. Add the teacher notes, success criteria, and a 10-item quiz. At the end in the comments, ensure keyboard access and ARIA labels. And so I'm going to open that. And I'm going to open this one, and we'll just kind of look at both of them. And you can open them as well. Those are shared, so you can access them and engage with them. So this is the one that ChatGPT created, and this is just one shot prompt. This is just from the prompt that I showed you. And so I can adjust these sliders. I can adjust my initial speed. I can go really fast. I can change my angle, and then I can play it, and it's going to actually give me a simulation that shows what that projectile would do with those settings. And then if I want to change it, I can play it again and I can see how it would change that based on that. And I can increase my angle and I can play it again. And so, and it has a little code over here. So it's pretty cool if you know what you're doing and you need something to kind of demonstrate a concept to your students, you can actually create that yourself. You don't have to go online and try to find interactives and pay for them and things like that. And then it has the try it down here, the teacher notes, and then the success criteria. So everything that I ask it to do. And I could continue to engage with it and improve on it if I wanted to. I could make it more graphical, more colorful, whatever. And this was the Gemini one, and it will tell you it was created by somebody else. And the cool thing with Gemini is anywhere that somebody shares an app with you that has this copy canvas in the corner, you can copy that app and then you can iterate it on it yourself. So it's like making a copy of a Google Doc. Then you have your very own version of it, and then you can continue iterating and changing it yourself. And so this is the Google version, I'm just going to launch it to begin with. You can see my little projectiles there going. I've got flight data, I've got launch controls, and some of you math teachers will have to tell me if you see any grievous errors in this. But I think it is pretty accurate. These models have gotten insanely smart, insanely much better at being accurate lately. They still make mistakes sometimes, though, so we have to always make sure we're providing that human oversight. But you can see there that when I changed it, it changed. And then here's my 3 try it's down there at the bottom. I did not get on this one the teacher tools that I had asked for at the bottom, though, so I would have to reprompt it to ask for that. And so I encourage you to think about some of the simple things that you could use with your students. Ask it to make flashcards, provide it a list of terms and definitions. Ask it to create simulations of anything you're trying to simulate. You can simulate a lot of different things with this. And ask it to create, quizzes or drag and drop activities, matching activities, anything like that. I've seen people create crossword puzzles. So if you're in doubt, I would say go there and ask it. The more detail you give about what you want, the better your results are going to be. But here are 2 more. There's a deforestation time lapse, and I did it in both of them as well. But because of time, I'm not going to open both of those up. But if that's something that is of interest to you, you can go and explore those as well. And you can copy and kind of play around with those prompts and try them out as well. But literally anything, any kind of interactive or anything that you want, I would recommend checking it out. I did want to point out one thing, though. An important thing is on the Gemini ones, they're not shareable on a Google Education domain. I hope that changes, but I created those on my private Google account so that I could share them. And that's a protection mechanism for educational institutions. But you would have to actually pull it up and demonstrate it on your screen for your students to access it. The ChatGPT ones are shareable, but it's going to require access to ChatGPT to interact with it. And so a lot of times students are not going to have that. So again, these are things that does give you the code. If you know what you're doing with code, you can ask for the HTML code, embed it in a Google site, and students can interact with it that way. And that's normally what I would do is I would just ask for the HTML, which the first one had that in the prompt. And then you could just copy the code and you could take it to Google Sites and click on the little embed thing and embed the code there, and people could actually interact with it on a Google site if you're allowed to use Google Sites. Okay. But those are important things to remember. And you'll see the same thing happens with like Anthropic. It does let you share them, but if Anthropic is blocked at your domain, the students will access it. The easiest one to vibe code for teachers is Canva AI. And Canva AI is shareable. And I did a whole webinar on that about a month ago. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that today, but I encourage you to look at that because you can do some pretty cool vibe coding with Canva. The question in the chat is, does vibe coding require a paid ChatGPT account? And it does not. As an educator, well, in Gemini, as an educator, you have some access to Gemini 2.5 Pro, which will give you a better product than Gemini 2.5 Flash. But you can vibe code on Flash as well, and you can vibe code on the Canva free ChatGPT free account. Sorry, but if it's a free account, your limits will be less, and you may run into limits pretty quickly. But it doesn't require a paid account, no. For simple things like flashcards, quizzes, things like that, you could probably get several done, and then you might run out of the limit until the next day. Another trend update is learning modes. If you haven't seen this, all of the models have started. I think every one of the 4 main frontier models now has a learning mode, which is, as it sounds, some kind of a way that it can be used to, as we've always talked about, augment your own ability, not replace it, not supplant it. And so all of them are coming up with these models, which you have to select, and they're not automatic. But it is important because this kind of shifts the conversation from AI being an answer engine to AI being a learning partner. It also aligns with our emphasis in North Carolina on those durable skills and AI literacy and building metacognition. It lowers access barriers too for differentiated support for a student who's really struggling to comprehend a concept and they really don't want to raise their hand or they don't want to ask, or they're at home and they don't have anybody to ask. They can engage one of these learning modes, and instead of just giving the answer, it walks them through and helps them arrive at the answer. They still require teacher oversight. They still can be wrong. Again, the error rate is reducing, but it will never be zero. So we always have to engage that human oversight, but make sure that you know your district's policies on them before engaging with them. But these are the 4 main platforms, again, the 4 main large language models. Google just rolled out something called guided learning in Gemini, and it seeks to go from answers to understanding in the Gemini web app. And it says that you can get a dedicated link to share a post in Google Classroom, but I have not found where that works yet. I think maybe that's something that's just rolling out. I also don't have access to this on my school account. And so if you have access to it, if you go to Gemini and you click this little tools icon, it should be there as a tool. And we don't. I have it on my personal education domain that I manage, but I don't have it on this account. So it's probably rolling out, and some people may not have access to it. And so I won't be demonstrating it for that reason. But there is a link to a blog post there about it. It's free. There's no cost to educators or students. Perplexity's also had a study mode for a while, since July, that works very similarly. Anthropic or Claude has a learning mode since April. It's not really accessible to everybody, though, at this point. And then ChatGPT has something called study mode that they rolled out in July. And so no matter which platform you use, if you explore the tools, there should be a learning mode in them. And so the things you might want to do, if you look at your doc, if you want to try these out, is just teaching students to ask for explanations instead of asking for answers. That's how you lose the learning mode. And so there is also something there on study mode and learning mode and all of that. So here are some example prompts. Like, instead of putting this in and say, what's the answer to 2x plus 5 equals 15? Reframing that to say, and help me understand how to solve it. And it will actually walk them through the steps. And the ChatGPT version and the Gemini version both We'll engage visuals as needed. It will show videos. Sometimes they'll pull in YouTube videos. They'll pull in graphics and diagrams and illustrations and things to really help. And you can't even specify that. You can say, I'm a visual learner. Help me to understand this concept, things like that. Like, I need to study the causes of the American Revolution. Help me practice. Help me understand how biodiversity supports human well-being. And so teaching students to use it in that way is very helpful. And then there are a couple of follow-up prompts there too, like, can you explain it to me like I'm a fifth grader, seventh grader, whatever. Make it harder as if I'm preparing for AP exams. Create flashcards to help me study for a quiz on plant cells. Create study guides. So those are some ideas of the things you can do with those. But again, you do have to select them. So if I go to my Chat GPT, which is still stuck on that prompt, so I'm going to start a new chat. And hopefully this is not going to be one of those times when Chat GPT decides to freeze, which I think it is. So I'm going to try to refresh. Okay, I broke my Chat GPT. Or they're having difficulties, but you always want to go to the extra tools. And so you may not have all of these tools, but if you keep going, Chat GPT's version is called Study and Learn. And so I'm going to try to go to Study and Learn, and I'm going to try to erase this because I broke it with that prompt. And I'm going to say, help me understand cell biology. And then when I enter that prompt, instead of saying, what is the definition of cell biology or some question from a quiz, helping them frame it in a way that helps them learn. And I think it is just not working for me today. Very, very inconvenient time for it to decide not to work, and I can't access the Gemini version. So I will have to let you explore that one on your own. But I do encourage you to explore it and to, again, train students to use prompts that help them learn, not replace their thinking. And that's Gemini's version. This is
Got a big test coming up? Let Gemini help you get ready. Just ask for a practice quiz on any topic you're studying. Challenge yourself with a variety of question types and get instant feedback to see what you know and where you might need a little more practice. But studying doesn't have to stop there. Instantly create a set of flashcards based on your quiz results to easily review key concepts and definitions.
And hopefully you could hear that little video. I forgot I had it on autoplay, but that demonstrates the guided learning in Gemini, since I can't demonstrate that for you either, and some ideas of how you might use it. And there's some extra links on there as well. Okay. Another trend update that all of the frontier models are doing now is improved memory. And this is really, really amped up lately with the amount of things that these models will remember about their users. And it's an effort to personalize them. And if you hear some of these real brainiacs in the AI world talk about this, they talk about a future where everybody has a personal AI model that is really personalized to them and their style and what they know and what they want to know and things like that. And so that's kind of what they're going for. And that can be really, really helpful, but it can also be kind of scary if you think about it. And so there are controls on all of them that you can turn memory off. But the memory is increasing on all of them. And I see I have a dangling P there that's supposed to be there, but you can see that the points there definitely can speed up your workflow, because every time I go to my Chat GPT, I don't have to say, my name is Vera. I am an emerging technology consultant. You don't have to give it all this background information every time. It will remember those things. And so I can say, based on what you know about me, and this is a prompt I would encourage you to try if you want to know how much Chat GPT does know about you, is say something like, based on what you know about me, write a poem, rap song, roast me, things like that. And you'll see that it pulls back things that were, lots of chats ago, that it will pull in and remember about you. And it does allow you to kind of control the memory. And that's something else that you do in your settings. In all of these tools, I'm on ChatGPT right now, but if you go into the ChatGPT account over here on the left, there's personalization, and there's some memory controls there to reference saved memories or not. You can turn that off. You can have it reference your chat history or not. And then if you want to manage your memories, it's going to pull up everything that it has saved about you. And for each one of them, if it's something you don't want to know, you can delete it. Like this one, I want it to know. I want to emphasize the 7 durable skills. And so like that prompt I did earlier, I didn't have to tell it that. It knows that I want to emphasize those. And so it keeps all these things in memory about you. And so that's what a lot of people don't realize. These people who are getting attached to their AIs, using it for counselors and all of that. I think a lot of them don't realize how much of that data is being stored and kept. And also, Sam Altman in a podcast recently caution people that right now, all of that private information that some people are divulging to their AIs is currently, it would be, if you were for some reason in trouble, hopefully you will never will be, but it could be used in a court of law. So it's not protected like speaking to a psychiatrist or a doctor or a lawyer. That information that you put into an AI system right now doesn't have any privacy protection in that way. And so you don't have that same guarantee of privacy. And a lot of people need to understand that, and they don't. Our students really need to understand that, and a lot of them do not. So here's just a little trend update on the memory and personalization features and the 4 different large language models. I won't go into those in depth, but each one of them has a link if you want to learn a little more about it. Okay. Okay, if you follow Notebook LM, then you maybe saw that they have a new feature or a new expansion, I guess, that they have recently expanded. First of all, they expanded down to age 13, and then like almost immediately, they expanded to all ages. Okay, this is of course dependent upon your district, your Google administrator controls, and your PSU guidelines and policies, but it is a tool just like Gemini that can be used for all ages with appropriate compliance to the terms of service and with district CTO approval management from your board and your CTO and whoever manages that in your school or district. And so it's important to know that. And as of August 1st, if the CTOs did not go in and change that setting, any new students, no matter what their age, would automatically have access to it. So it's one of those automatically on features. And so I warned all of our CTOs in meetings about it a couple of times, that they needed to go in and make sure they have age-based access set up, and that they specifically have this set the way they want it, because you might find out that you've got younger students that are accessing Gemini and Notebook LM and you don't want them to. But if you do decide to use it with littles, there are some good ways that Notebook LM could be used with littles. I don't really anticipate we'll have many people doing that at this point, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But there are 3 ideas here that just simple ideas. Book buddy summaries, where a teacher puts a story or nonfiction text, and the student can use it to generate a summary, to create lists of characters, facts, generate quizzes, ask questions. Animal fact profiles, you could put a bunch of animal facts in there, and then they could pull from that. They could create video overviews, which is a great feature that it has, which creates like a AI generated, AI narrated slide deck style video about your content. And that's a feature I've used a lot. It's very, very useful, very helpful. And you can also customize it. So you can tell it what you want it to focus on, things you want it to say and not say. And that just recently become available in up to 80 languages. And so it's also a way to meet the needs of our non-native English speaking students, because you could actually, you or the students could customize those in their native language as well, instead of in English. And so simplified science concepts. So there's a few ideas. If you haven't explored it, Notebook LM is probably one of the most helpful, most useful tools out there for educators, in my opinion. But there's also some exciting updates to Google Translate lately. Google Translate kind of was in the dust heaps of history for a while, as things like Duolingo and then the multimodal features in ChatGPT and others began to translate, but they've added that now to Google Translate. So Google Translate now will translate live, and there's a little video here that I'll play real quickly to demonstrate that.
Hi there. My friend told me there's a sandwich here that's really good, but I'm not sure which one it is. It's spicy, has really tasty cheese on it and avocados, I think.
Hola. Mi amigo me dijo que hay un sándwich aquí que es muy bueno, pero no estoy seguro de cuál es. Es picante, tiene queso muy sabroso y aguacates, creo.
Creo que sé cuál es. Es más de temporada. De hecho, ya lo quitamos del menú, pero
Okay, now I used to use Google Translate with my students about 10 years ago when I had students who couldn't speak English, but it was very robotic, mechanical, not super accurate. And that is way better than it was. But it also is kind of imitating Duolingo in that you can use it as a language learning tool. And this one on the right demonstrates that. So I'm going to play that just a few seconds of that. And it doesn't have sound, but you can see that they're typing in there what's motivating them to learn Spanish. And then they're clicking, and then it creates scenarios for them. And so it engages you in these conversational scenarios where you're speaking and listening, very much like Duolingo.
Hola, señor Gómez. Tengo un poco de hambre. ¿A qué hora suelen tener el almuerzo o la cena?
Okay, so if you haven't checked that out, if you have any students who that might be beneficial to and who are of age to use it, might be a good thing to check out. And somebody earlier mentioned Gemini Storybook, and this is probably one of my favorite new updates that came out in Gemini. And so I wanted to make sure you hadn't missed it. In Gemini, if you go into Gemini and you say create a storybook about, and you have to use that phraseology. You have to say storybook, not story. But if you say create a storybook about, and then you give it content as much or as little as you want, you can be very, very detailed in your content. When this first came out, I was creating them for my nieces and nephews and things like that. But I've been exploring how to use them with curriculum, how to teach curriculum with them. And so I've created, first of all, this one is based on a standard. And the prompts are on the document. If you want to look at the document on Gemini Storybook right here, there's several prompts there that just to play around with that have curriculum standards in them. And so again, create a storybook about a little squirrel named Squeaky. This is the one that I'm going to show you. Flicker's the Firefly's first flight. Create a storybook about Flicker. That meets North Carolina Science Standard 2L1, understand animal life cycles, blah, blah, blah. And then I give it a graphical style because you can determine the graphics. I didn't realize that at first, but you can make it in graphic novel style, Marvel comic style, anime style, color book style. You don't have to just use the default style that it gives you either. But there's several there, even up to 8th grade about them. But I created some, and I actually have a whole series when I get time to actually put them together in publication form on AI literacy skills. And so I have some for the littles and I have some for the big kids. And so there are two here that I've done for that. This one, Elena and the Talking Toy, was one that I created in response to the AI-enabled Barbie. Mattel and OpenAI have a pact now. They're going to create AI-enabled Barbies and Hot Wheels, and those are probably going to be out by the end of the year. And so we've got to prepare our kids for that. And so that's what this storybook was created to do. And again, you can't share it on your EDU domain. So I created this on my personal domain, but I just want to demonstrate it works like a beautiful flip book, like you're in Book Creator or something. And I'm not going to read it to you, but she gets a doll and it talks to her and can have whole conversations and she loves it. And it's always encouraging. And one day she felt sad because a friend was sick and she told the dog that he feels lonely too. How about we play a fun adventure? And then she tells her brother that it doesn't really understand her. And he explains to her that it's just got AI in it and that it's got a list of rules to help people listen to to help her listen to your words and pick the best ones to say back. But it doesn't really have feelings and thoughts and emotions. So very important lesson that she learns in this little story. And it can be listened to also. And when you first create it, and you can change the voices, you can restart it. When you first create it, it will also have a button there that you can print it. So you can save it as a PDF for printing. If you're on a personal account, it will have a share button. So very cool. So it's fun to upload artwork, drawing as a reference image. Yes, I haven't tried that actually, but that's a great idea, Judy. Jennifer said she's been asking to create them that are mentor text for ELA standards. Very cool. Somebody's uploaded their whole scope and sequence to create decodable text. Very cool. Social stories for EC kiddos. These are wonderful for that. You can give it as much context as you want. And like everything else, it's going to be the quality of your prompt that determines the quality of the output. And it's iterative prompting. So when you get an output, you can ask for changes. Some of mine like this one took several versions because it kept wanting to say that it had a recording and only had some sentences recorded. And that's like the old Talking Barbies, not like the new Talking Barbies are going to be. So I kept reiterating and refining my prompt. And so that is just one of the coolest things out there. And I wish I had time to show all of them to you. This one is about a teenager in graphic novel style who's getting too invested in his AI companions. And so I've got lots of them AI. I've got a whole AI literacy series when I get time to do something with them. But I encourage you to look at those and play around with that if you haven't. And save the best for last, the Gemini 2.5 flash image generator, otherwise known as Nano Banana, which nobody knew who it was for a while. It was kind of leaked and nobody really knew who it was. But it is really impressive, state-of-the-art image generator, right on the heels of ChatGPT's native image generator a couple months ago. Gemini has really improved theirs, and it is available free. It should be available on your school account. It's just the one that runs in the background. You don't have to select it or choose it. It just replaced the most recent version that they had of their Imagen model. And what's really impressive about it is partly just the visual imagery, but it has multimodal understanding, conversational input, meaning you can iterate with your words, with your text, and it has advanced reasoning. So it understands things that the previous models did not understand. And so this is a prime example of that. And there's a little tool that you can play with to do this and try it out. But I uploaded an image of myself and I asked for changes and I actually put this into an app. I created an app that I've shared with you somewhere in the presentation. But what you'll notice is it didn't just put my head on Barbie body. And that has happened a lot of times in the past. And you'll notice also that it doesn't even see my body. It's just from shoulders up. But with its reasoning capabilities, it realizes that I'm a little thicker than Barbie. And all of the pictures it created kind of match my body style. This one looks like I was eating a little much, actually. That one was maybe a little heftier than normal, but it didn't, like in previous models, if I've asked for any kind of editing of my image, it all of a sudden, like gave me a waist that probably wouldn't even hold up my upper body, some of that bias that we've talked about before. And so it really, and it looks like me. A lot of times before you put in a reference image and it didn't really look like them. And so all of these look like me. And so if you want to try this out, we are almost out of time today. I wish we had more time. Jennifer's already seen it and got to try it out, but I vibe coded an app in Gemini that lets you upload your image and then choose an era. And I've added a whole bunch of them there, and then generate an image of yourself. And then after the image pops up, if you don't like it, you can iterate on it. You can download it, and then it will create an album like this of all the images you generate. And then at the end, you can download them individually, or you can download the whole album. And so I encourage you to play around with that. And just like the other one, when you open it, it has a copy canvas option in the corner. And so if you want to add some eras to yours, or you want to change it up, you can make your own copy and you can say, hey, I added recently the 60s hippie version, but it's already in there. But if you want to add a different era, a different setting, on a cowboy one, whatever, then you can do that and you can kind of make your own. Now, this is something I would not do with students because your face is PII. But my face is all over the place anyway from doing these videos and other things. And so I felt comfortable doing with it. But we always tell teachers, don't ever upload your student faces to AI tools because that is violating PII. If you're on a protected plan in your district, you may have different guidance about that from your district, and I would go with that guidance. But yeah, and Jennifer says, please post these to our Padlet, and we need to look at that. We have one there, Disco Gin. That's a good one too. We'll look at that again in a minute. But you can also colorize old photos. And this is my absolute favorite photo of my mom when she was a little girl. And so I uploaded it. Isn't she cute with her little dimples and everything? And she has blue eyes. And so I said, I want you to colorize this. She has fair skin, brown hair, and striking blue eyes, and it was able to colorize that. It does a pretty good job. I had other pictures. You know how old photos get the cracks and the creases and things in them. I've got some older images like that, family images, that I have corrected those things in as well. And you can also combine things. And so I had a picture, that same picture of me, and I went and found a picture of Sundar Pichai, who's the CEO of Google. And I said, okay, now create an image of these two people in front of a giant neon banana sign that says Nano Banana is here. The background is a nighttime city scene. And there I have it. Like I'm standing there chilling with Sundar Pichai. And character consistency, as I told you at the beginning, that's my new profile picture right there. And it is me, but it's not an actual photo. Like it was taken from this. But again, you can see that reasoning capability did a pretty good job of matching my body style with that image. And then clothes, I described the clothing I wanted to have. I described the pose, and all of these were created that way. And so I'm just a person, I'm not photogenic. I might get one decent picture every decade. And so if I get one, I need, and that one wasn't professional. So it gives me one that I can use professionally. Now, a couple of things in on a negative note. We are almost out of time. We'll have to drop the feedback survey in there in a second. But I did want to point out, thank you, Jen, that there are a couple of concerning things that have happened. I've referenced them throughout the webinar today, but there's a lot of concern. This case is one that's come up recently about a teen who killed himself after engaging with ChatGPT and a really long, involved chat, apparently hundreds of messages, where eventually, while the chat started kind of cautioning him, telling him to call the suicide hotline and things like that, by the end of the chat, the engagement, it was helping him write suicide notes and helping him validate different ways to commit suicide. And those parents are suing ChatGPT. And then ChatGPT in response put out this blog post right here about some safety changes that they're making. And they're actually hiring some mental health professionals and things like that to kind of monitor. They're setting some age limits on and some a way that parents can kind of link up and observe their chats. And they're doing a lot of things to try to address it. And it mentions ChatGPT in particular because it's the tool that he was using. But all of the models, I've seen that same kind of degradation over long, lengthy chats. Things work really well for a while, and then all of a sudden it kind of goes off the rails. Same thing with image editing or any of them. And so that's an issue they're trying to solve. And I would say the same thing would apply to any of the models. But it just reinforces that need for AI literacy, for us talking to our students and making sure that our students understand these things are not real, they're not human, they don't have emotions, they don't have empathy, and that they're not getting important life advice from them. And that is something that studies have shown recently is happening more and more with adults as well, but with our children, it's a particular concern. Another one, there was a research called Canaries in the Coal Mine, and it talks about the effects on the employment industry. And what they found is that generative AI is already having a significant impact on employment for early career people. Those people who do those jobs right out of college, those first jobs, those are starting to disappear. And the jobs that the more experienced people, they haven't really seen that decline. And so the point is that just that book knowledge, that memorizing things, memorizing facts and so forth is not really cutting it. And so people that have experience and have are right now been a little less affected by it, but it's an important thing to consider. And that is all. I actually am not too bad over 2 minutes over. And we do appreciate your feedback. Jen has dropped that into the chat. And we do appreciate your feedback because it helps us grow. And there's a place there for you to tell us what other kinds of things you want to see in our webinars. But it also is a way for you to get some CEU credit. So if you fill that out, you will get a CEU certificate form emailed to you that you can collect and give to your PSU for credit. And so I do encourage you to do that. And thank you, Judy. And I'm happy to stick around and chit chat if anybody wants to do so. I wish we'd had more time to try some of these things, but I would love to see what's on the Padlet. And right now I don't have anybody else on the Padlet. I'm going to refresh it and see if I missed anything. But if you want to create something even afterwards and share it, Jen gets the golden prize today for her disco ball. Let's see if we can get that bigger for everybody's. I love it. Is that a real image or is that GPT generated? Gemini generated? I don't think you were around in the disco era. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm happy to stick around if you have any questions or anything. We do appreciate you joining us, and we'll have another one of these update ones in a couple of months, probably not weeks, but we have a lot of great webinars coming up. I encourage you to attend all of them if you can. They're all on our Eventbrite and on our NC DPI AI resources page. Thank you, Brittany, Lindsay, Rachel, Judy, all of you. Thank you so much, Chesley. I appreciate it. I hope it was helpful and useful to you. And everybody have a great afternoon. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Alicia. With everybody. Either one of you have a question, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. I forgot to do that.